Okay, hello YouTube, hello X, welcome. So lately I've been feeling inspired to, you know, kind of do what the Christians do and have a little gathering where we talk about Gnostic texts, because there are Gnostic texts and they are very interesting, and I don't know if many people know about them. So the Gnostic texts that I'm referring to, I know there's probably multiple collections that people would consider Gnostic, but I'm referring to the Nag Hammadi Codices, which were found in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. They were unearthed in 1945. They were actually found in these like clay pots as like these papyrus rolls, and they were about to be burned for kindling, and then somebody had the thought to, hey, wait, let's see what's in there, let's maybe not burn all of it, right? So there are some very interesting texts. I believe they were written in Coptic and Greek, but this text that I'm talking about now and that I'm about to get into is bar none my favorite. I think it's the one that, especially if you have a Christian background, you can read this text and you can be like, whoa, like, where the hell did Genesis come from, and why is like the Genesis that's in the Old Testament so much different than what I'm about to read? So apologies for any background noise. I am outside because I just want to be. It's a beautiful night. And so this text that I'm referring to is called the On the Origin of the World. And this is a very easily Googleable. I have a translation up on Gnosis.org that I'm reading from. This, I mean, if you want to follow along, go ahead. But this is one of those texts that it kind of takes a few reads to really absorb and get into. So I, by no means, am going to read through the whole text for you because it is actually very long. But what I would like to do is kind of read, I'm kind of going to pick and choose because I want to. And, but I'm going to summarize the beginning. So, okay, yeah, that's where I'm going to start later. Okay, so, we have the typical Genesis that says, in the beginning, but in this, On the Origin of the World, it starts before the beginning. Like, literally one of the head titles or the headlines here is before the beginning. So I'm just going to read from like the first little paragraph, and then, I'm kind of going to summarize a bit of it because I've read it many times. And it is quite jarring. So the one thing that I will say as I go through this is just kind of keep in mind the Old Testament Genesis. And I'm sure, I shouldn't say for sure, but I would assume that most of us have like at least a working knowledge of the book of Genesis, whatever, made 7 days, made light, made whatever, did all these things just boom at the snap of a finger. And then, Adam and Eve in the garden. So this Gnostic text on the origin of the world starts before the beginning. It says, since everyone, the gods of the world and people, says that nothing existed prior to chaos, I shall demonstrate that they are mistaken, since they do not know the origin of chaos and its root. Here is the demonstration. How agreeable it is to all people to say that chaos is darkness. But actually, chaos comes from a shadow that has been called darkness. The shadow comes from something existing from the beginning. So it is obvious that something in the beginning existed before chaos came into being, and that chaos came after what was in the beginning. Now let us consider the facts of the matter, and in particular, what was in the beginning, from which chaos came, and in this way the truth will be clearly demonstrated. So the next little headline here is Birth of Sophia and the Forces of Darkness. So this is like this whole before the beginning part, is very detailed, and I would definitely recommend that you read it on your own. Once I'm out of this space, I'll put the little PDF below. But like I said, you can literally just Google On the Origin of the World, Gnosis.org, and it's going to come up right away. So here in this is the very beginning of the text, and it's talking about the birth of Sophia. So they're talking about the births of the aeons in this text. So we are before the beginning of Earth, absolutely. And there's a discussion of the immortal. So this is what the aeons are. If you have any knowledge at all of Gnosticism, then you will know that the aeons are these creator beings. And for the purposes of our story, it's important for us to know that Sophia was an aeon, and, if you'll follow along with my working theory, which comes from Mr. John Lamb Lash, is that the Aeon Sophia fell and became our planet Earth, which is why she's so important to us. And then this, on the origin of the world, is kind of describing how she came to do that. So there's a discussion of the Aeonic realm. And then there is also a little episode about how Sophia accidentally birthed the demiurge. And here, it is so crazy. Okay, so it was derived from Pistis Sophia. The shadow perceived that there was one stronger than it. It was jealous, and when it became self-impregnated, it immediately bore envy. Since that day, the principle of envy appeared in all of the aeons and their worlds, but envy was found to be an aborted fetus without any spirit in it. It became like the shadows in a great watery substance. The bitter wrath that came into being from the shadow was cast into a region of chaos. Since that day, a watery substance has appeared. What was enclosed in the shadow flowed forth, appearing in chaos. Just as all the useless afterbirth of one who bears a little child falls, likewise the matter that came into being from the shadow was cast aside. Matter did not come out of chaos, but it was in chaos, existing in a part of it. So, I'm reading from the text here, we've got aborted fetus. This text it's absolutely crazy. This is the first couple paragraphs. And, this is the quote unquote aborted fetus that fell from Sophia as a result of her not creating humanity with her male counterpart. These aeons always exist in male-female counterparts. If you want to know kind of the background to that, you can go ahead and buy my guidebook to the goddess, which is on my page. You can also go ahead and purchase Not in His Image by Mr. John Lamb Lash. Both, mine is like a very kind of condensed a version that has a lot, I don't know if you want to call it more woo-woo, but it's got a little more of my own touch in there, but obviously Mr. John Lamb Lash is heavily cited. And there is a lot of, like when you read the Bible, there's a lot of, it's very wordy, right? So, but what I really want to emphasize here is that the aborted fetus that we're talking about that came from the expulsion of the Aeon Sophia is Yaldabaoth, is the demiurge, is the Old Testament God. Okay, that is very, very important to establish, and it's established right away on the origin of the world. So Sophia and Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, or the Old Testament God, immediately they engage in this dialogue. And Yaldabaoth was this unplanned aborted fetus, essentially, and Sophia she didn't expect this, right? And he was kind of thrown away to the side, and she was like, I don't really want anything to do with you, I didn't expect this, whatever, and from that he became just so evil and awful. And here we go with the text again. Now, when Pistis Sophia wanted to cause the thing that had no spirit to be formed into a likeness and rule over matter and over all its powers, a ruler first appeared out of the waters, lion-like in appearance, androgynous, with great authority within himself, but ignorant of whence he came into being. And this is very important to remember. When Pistis Sophia saw him moving in the depths of the waters, she said to him, "Youth, pass over here," which is interpreted as Yaldabaoth. Since that day, the first principle of the word that referred to the gods and angels and people has appeared. And the gods and angels and people constitute that which came into being by means of the word. Moreover, the ruler Yaldabaoth is ignorant of the power of Pistis. He did not see her face, But he saw in the water the likeness that spoke with him, and from that voice he called himself Yaldabaoth, which, is not unlike Yahweh, let me just say. But the perfect ones call him Ariel. It's Ariael, Ariel, because he was like a lion. After he came to possess authority over matter, Pistis Sophia withdrew up to her light. So essentially, Sophia is like, hey, if you want to just, do your thing, didn't anticipate this, you can go ahead, you can, whatever. But obviously, as we know, he doesn't mind his own business. He doesn't stay within his boundaries. And, so there's quite a bit here about Yaldabaoth making his own creations, but they're not. The thing about what Yaldabaoth can create is because he doesn't have spirit, so everything that he creates is spiritless. He can curse and he can create lifeless beings, aka the archons, that are like his little worker bees, but he can't bless, he can't give life, he can't, do what he's so jealous of humanity for. Like we can just do that very naturally because it's literally our goddess given gift, and he was an accident. So we've got like a bunch of names here, and then there's another headline, the boasting of Yaldabaoth. And then here, where are we? Okay, so this is referring to Yaldabaoth. And he rejoiced in his heart, and he boasted continually, saying to them, I do not need God, I am God, and there is no other God but me. Who do we know that has said that? Who's attributed to that line? Literally, it cannot be any more clear. But when he said these things, he sinned against all of the immortal, imperishable ones, and they kept their eyes on him. I would say the aeons. Moreover, when Pistis Sophia saw the impiety of the chief ruler, she was angry. Without being seen, she said, You're wrong, Samael, that is, blind God. An enlightened, immortal human exists before you and will appear within your fashioned bodies. The human will trample upon you as potter's clay is trampled, and you will go with those who are yours down to your mother, the abyss. For in the consummation of your works, all of the deficiency that appeared in the truth will be dissolved, it will cease, and it will be like something that never existed. And after Pistis Sophia said these things, she revealed the likeness of her greatness in the waters and withdrew up to her light. Okay, there's another little episode here of actually an archon who defected to the side of Sophia, which is interesting that is outlined and apparently an option, where if you and you have to think too, like the archons were created by an ignorant being who said that he was the only god, and then there's a little episode in here about an archon, Sabaoth, who was under that same ignorance, and then once he realized that it was actually Sophia, he was like, whoa, wait. And he wanted to be on Sophia's side, and she took him. She was like, yeah, come be with me. This is actually the truth, and you don't have to follow this guy who is lying. It's just, you just don't have to do that. Okay, and then we have another headline here. Yaldabaoth retaliates by creating death. Thanks for that, brother. Yeah, there's a little part of him about here about creating the demons, and then it says their names and their functions you will find in the Book of Solomon. Yaldabaoth realizes his mistake. When the chief creator, aka Yaldabaoth, saw the likeness of Pistis in the waters, he grieved, especially when he heard her voice, which was like the first voice that called to him out of the water. When he knew that this was the one who named him, he groaned and was ashamed on account of his transgression. And when he actually knew that an enlightened, immortal human existed before him, he was greatly disturbed. because previously he had said to all the gods and their angels, aka the archons, I am God and there is no other God but me. Ugh, embarrassing. For he had been afraid that they might know that another existed before him and condemn him, but he, like a fool, despised the condemnation and acted recklessly, and said, if something exists before me, let it appear so we might see its light. And immediately, look, light came out from the 8th heaven above and passed through all the heavens of earth. And when the chief creator saw the light was beautiful as it shone forth, he was amazed and very much ashamed. When the light appeared, a human likeness, which was very wonderful, was revealed within it, and no one saw it except the chief creator alone and the forethought who was with him. But its light appeared to all the powers of the heavens, therefore they were all disturbed by it. And when they're talking about the powers of the heavens, these are like, these are the fake realms that Yaldabaoth has created with his archons. Okay, there's a little, episode here of Eros and Psyche, which is an interesting addition. The creation of paradise, and this is where it starts to sync up again with the Old Testament or Abrahamic Genesis. And we've got some text about the tree here. You are the tree of knowledge, which is in paradise, from the first man ate, and which opened his mind, so that he loved his female partner, and condemned other alien likenesses, and loathed them, aka the off-planet ruler, quote-unquote, Archon, Yaldabaoth. He's literally an alien likeness. Creation of plants, animals, and heavenly orbs. This is like, honestly, it's just a way better version of Genesis. There's so much more detail. And, and like these old texts, there's a lot of naming of things and different, parts like that are a little heavy to get through. Okay, the creation of humankind. Before Adam of Light withdrew in the chaos, the authorities, aka archons, saw him. They laughed at their chief creator, Yaldabaoth, because he lied, saying, I am God and there is no other God but me. When the archons came to Yaldabaoth, they said, excuse me, that was me. They said, is this not the God who ruined our work? He answered and said, yes. But if you wish that he not be able to ruin our work, come, let's create a human being from the earth, according to the image of our body, and according to the likeness of this being, to serve us, so that whenever this being sees his likeness, he may become enamored of it. Then he will no longer ruin our work, but we shall make those who are born from the light our servants through all the time of this age. Okay, pause. Like, whoa. If you read the traditional book of Genesis in the Old Testament, and you this is basically the beginning of the Old Testament Genesis, is the creation of man from earth. Now, if you're reading this with the context of that other book, and you're like, okay, wait, no, this is Yaldabaoth, aka the demiurge, aka the aborted fetus, who is thinking that he can copy and make his own human basically from dirt, and that everything's going to be all hunky-dory fine and he's not going to have to reckon with anything. Okay, so it's very interesting. Allow me to continue. Now, all this came to pass according to the forethought of Pisces Sophia, in order that humankind might appear after this likeness and condemn them on account of their fashioned bodies, and their fashioned bodies became fences for the light. Then the authorities, the archons, received knowledge necessary to create people. Sophia Zoe, who was with Sabaoth, the archon who defected, anticipated them and laughed at their decision because they were blind. In ignorance, they created him against themselves. They do not know what they do. This literally, Sophia set up a trap. Girl. She created her human being first in order that he might tell their fashioned body how to scorn them and thus escape them. Now, the birth of the instructor occurred in this way. When Sophia let a drop of light fall, it floated on the water. Immediately, a human being appeared, being androgynous. She molded that drop first as a female body. Afterwards, she molded it with the body in the likeness of the mother who appeared, and she finished it in 12 months. An androgynous human being was conceived, whom the Greeks call Hermaphrodite, while the Jews call his mother Eve of life, that is, the instructor of life. Her child is the creature who is Lord. Afterward, the authorities called it the beast, in order to lead their fashioned bodies astray. Interesting note of the archons using words to deceive humanity. Where do we see that today? The meaning of the beast is the instructor, for it was found to be wiser than all the beings. Moreover, Eve is the first virgin who gave birth without a man. She is the one who functioned as her own midwife. And then here we have Song of Eve. On account of this, it is said concerning her that she said, I am part of my mother, and I am the mother. I am the wife. I am the virgin. I am pregnant. I am the midwife. I am the one who comforts during labor pains. My husband produced me, and I am his mother, and he is my father and my Lord. He is my potency. What he desires, he speaks with reason. I am becoming, but I have borne a lordly man. The cosmic rulers, aka the archons, mold Adam. Dun dun dun! At that time, the chief creator then expressed his opinion about humankind to those who were with him. Then each of them cast his seed into the middle of the navel of the earth, which is, if you can read between the lines, gross. Since that day, the 7 rulers have formed humankind with his body like their body, but his likeness is like the human who appeared to them. So they're trying to copy it. His fashioned body came into being one part at a time, and their chief, Yaldabaoth, created the brain and the nervous system. Afterward, the person appeared like the one that is before him. He became a person with soul, and he was called Adam, that is father, after the name of the one who was before him. Now, after Adam was made, Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, left Adam as a lifeless vessel. Wow. Since he had taken form like an aborted fetus with no spirit in him. Regarding this, when the chief ruler remembered the word of Pisces Sophia, he was afraid that the true human might come into this fashioned body and rule over it. Because of this, he left his fashioned body 40 days without soul, and he withdrew and left him. But on the 40th day, Sophia Zoe came to the rescue. She sent her breath into Adam, who was without soul. He began to move upon the earth, but he could not stand up. Now when the 7 rulers, the archons, came and saw him, they were very much disturbed. They walked up to him and seized him, and Yaldabaoth said to the breath within him, Who are you, and from where have you come here? It answered and said, I came through the power of the human for the destruction of your work. Just as Sophia had foresight enough to see. Of course, her mind is huge. She's not called wisdom for nothing. When they heard, they glorified him because he gave them rest from their fear and concern. These little archons, they all they know is fear. They don't even know there's another option. Then they called that the day of rest, because they rested themselves from their troubles. And when they saw that Adam could not stand up, they rejoiced. They took him and left him in paradise and withdrew up to their heavens, or their archonic realms. Eve gives Adam life. After the day of rest, Sophia sent Zoe, her daughter, who is called Eve, as an instructor to raise up Adam, in whom there was no soul, so that those so that those whom he would produce might become vessels of the light. When Eve saw her male partner cast down, she pitied him, and she said, Adam, live, rise up on the earth. Immediately her word became accomplished deed, for when Adam rose up, immediately he opened his eyes, and when he saw her, he said, you will be called the mother of the living, because you are the one who gave me life. Now, interesting enough, because in the Old Testament Genesis, as I'm sure you know, it's the bloody opposite. They don't even have a whole lot of creativity. They just say that Adam suddenly was created, all good, and then we took his rib and made Eve. Okay, so the contradiction here and the juxtaposition, if you will, is very telling. Okay, this next title or subheading, that's the word I've been looking for this whole time, is the cosmic rulers, aka the archons, rape the earthly Eve. Yeah. Then the authorities were informed that their fashioned body was alive and had risen, and they were very much disturbed. They sent 7 archangels or archons to see what happened. They came to Adam, and when they saw Eve speaking with him, they said to one another, what is this enlightened woman? For truly she resembles the likeness that appeared to us in the light. Now come, let us seize her and cast our seed into her, so that when she is polluted, she will not be able to ascend to her light. But those whom she bears will serve us. Let us not tell Adam, because he is not from us. Rather, let us bring a stupor, aka a sleep, upon him, and suggest to him in his sleep that she came into being from his rib, so the woman may serve and he may rule over her. I don't think it's any clearer that the Old Testament Genesis was written by humans under the influence of the archons. It's literally like unreliable narrator 101. Like, it doesn't get any clearer than that. Then Eve, since she existed as a power, laughed at their false intention. She darkened their eyes and secretly left her likeness there with Adam. She entered the tree of knowledge and remained there. They pursued her, and she revealed to them that she had entered the tree and had become the tree. And when the blind ones, the archons, fell into a great fear, they ran away. Afterward, when they sobered up from the stupor, they came to Adam. And when they saw the likeness of that woman with him, they were troubled, thinking that this was the true Eve. And they acted recklessly. They came to her and seized her and cast their seed upon her. They did it deceitfully, defiling her not only naturally, but also abominably, first defiling the seal of her voice, which had spoken to them, saying, what is it that exists before you? They meant to defile those who might say at the consummation of the age that they had been born of a true human by means of the word. And they were deceived, not knowing that they had defiled their own body. It was the likeness that the authorities and their archons defiled in every way. Which, I honestly, I don't think it gets crazier than, the past, 6 paragraphs that I've read, because you'll read that and you'll be like, whoa, you're reading this horrible story of these bastard creations that are evil and ignorant, and they rape Eve. And then you read the Old Testament Genesis, and it sounds like it was written by the same ignorant beings. Okay? That is a very clear warning. They can be a little shocking. Okay? Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. The trees of paradise and the beast. When the archons saw him, Adam, with the woman who was with him, erring in ignorance like beasts, they rejoiced greatly. When they learned that an immortal human was not going to pass them by, but they would even have to fear the woman who had turned into a tree, they were troubled and said, is this, perhaps, the true human, who blinded us and taught us about this defiled woman who is like him, that we might be conquered. Then the 7 archons took counsel. They came to Adam and Eve timidly. Yes, the archons. And they said to Adam and Eve, the fruit of every tree created for you in paradise may be eaten, but beware, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. If you do eat, you will die. After they gave them a great fright, they withdrew up to their realms. Okay, it's not God in the Old Testament. It's literally the enemy of humanity. A lot of people are getting hoodwinked, okay? Then came the one who was wiser than all creatures, who was called the Beast. Ooh, if you're a Christian, you're shaking in your boots right now. When he saw the likeness of their mother, Eve, he said to her, what is it that God, aka the demiurge, said to you? Don't eat from the tree of knowledge, she said. He said not only don't eat from it, but also don't touch it lest you die. He said to her, don't be afraid. You certainly shall not die. For he knows that when you eat from it, your mind will be sobered and you will become like gods, knowing the difference between evil and good people. For he said this to you because he is jealous, so that you would not eat from it. Now, Eve believed the words of the instructor. She looked at the tree and saw that it was beautiful and appealing, and she desired it. She took some of its fruit and ate, and she gave it to her husband also, and he ate too, and their minds opened. For when they ate, the light of knowledge shone for them. When they put on shame, they knew that they were naked with regard to knowledge. When they sobered up, they saw that they were naked, and they became enamored of one another. When they saw that their makers had beastly forms, the archons, they loathed them. They have understood a great deal. So eating from the tree of knowledge is what removed the stupor, the sleepiness that the archons had put on Adam and Eve. This next subheading is, have you eaten from the tree? Then when the rulers, the archons, knew that Adam and Eve had transgressed their commandment, they entered paradise and came to Adam and Eve in an earthquake and a great threat to see the result of the help that was given. Then Adam and Eve were very much disturbed and hid under the trees of paradise. The rulers didn't know where they are because they're stupid, and said, Adam, where are you? He said, I am here, but because of fear of you, I hid and I've become ashamed. But they said to him in ignorance, the archons, to Adam, who is the one that spoke to you of shame that you put on unless you ate from the tree? Adam said, the woman whom you gave me, she is the one who gave it to me, and I ate. Then they said to that woman, what is this that you have done? She answered and said, the instructor is the one who incited me, and I ate. Then the archons came to the instructor, aka the tree. Their eyes were blinded by him, so they were not able to do anything to him. They merely cursed him, since they were powerless. Afterward they came to the woman, and they cursed her and her offspring. After the woman they cursed Adam and the earth and the fruit because of him. And everything they created they cursed. There is no blessing from them. Good cannot come from evil. Since that day, the authorities, or the archons, knew that truly there was something stronger than them. They would not have known except that their commandment was broken. They brought a great envy into the world only because of the immortal human. Now, when the archons saw that their Adam had acquired a different knowledge, they wanted to test him. They gathered all domestic animals and wild beasts of the earth and the birds of the heaven and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. When he saw them, he gave names to their creatures. They were troubled because Adam had sobered up from all ignorance that the archons had put him under. They gathered together and took counsel and said, look, Adam has become one of us, well, so that he understands the difference between light and darkness. Now perhaps he will be deceived as with the tree of knowledge, and will come to the tree of life and eat from it and become immortal and rule and condemn us archons and regard us and all our glory as folly, aka bullshit. And then he will pass judgment on us and the world. Come, let's cast him out of paradise down to the earth, the place from where he was taken, so that he will no longer be able to know anything better than we can. And so they cast Adam and his wife out of paradise. And what they had done did not satisfy them. Rather, they were still afraid, because these are just like so like pussy bitches is what I want to call them. They came to the tree of life, the archons came to the tree of life, and they set great terrors around it. Fiery living beings called cherubim, and they left a flaming sword in the midst, turning continually with a great terror, so that no one from among earthly beings might ever enter that place, which, I will remind you, is all a folly and a farce. It is all fake. And after these things, when the archons had become jealous of Adam, they wanted to diminish the human lifetimes, but they were unable to because of fate, which was established from the beginning. For their lifetimes were determined for each of the people 1,000 years, according to the circuits of the luminaries. But although the rulers were not able to do this, each of the evildoers took away 10 years, so all of the remaining time amounts to 930 years. And these are spent in grief and weakness and in evil distractions. Thus, life has gone from that day until the consummation of the age. This next subheading is phoenixes, water animals, bulls of Egypt. All right. Then when Sophia, Zoe, saw that the rulers of darkness cursed her companions, she was angry. And she came out of the first heaven with every power. She chased the archons from their heavens and cast them down to the sinful world, so that they might dwell there as evil demons upon the earth. She sent the bird that was in paradise, so that until the consummation of the age, it might spend 1,000 years in the ruler's world. A vital living being with soul, called the phoenix, which kills itself and reanimates itself for a witness to their judgment, because they dealt unjustly with Adam and the human race. Okay, there's a little bit about the phoenix here. Okay, let us come back to the archons of whom we spoke, that we might present an explanation of them. For when the 7 rulers were cast from their heavens down upon the earth, they created for themselves angels, many demonic angels, to serve them. But these demons taught humankind many errors with magic and potions and idolatry and shedding of blood and altars and temples and sacrifices and libations to all the demons of the earth, having as their co-worker fate, who came into being to the agreement by the gods of injustice and justice. And then when the world came into being, it wandered astray in distraction throughout all time. For all the people who are on the earth served the demons from the creation until the consummation of the age, both the angels of justice and the people of injustice. Thus, the world came to be in distraction and ignorance and stupor. They all erred until the appearance of the true human. Now, just as an aside, I feel like we can all agree that there is a lot of distraction, there is a lot of ignorance and stupor in humanity on earth. I think we can agree there. Okay. There's some text. I want to get to, yeah, okay. This is near the end here. So, the consummation of the age and the apocalypse. Dun dun dun. Before the consummation of the age, the whole place will be shaken by a great thunder. Meanwhile, Lady D down in Australia is getting shaken as we speak. Then the rulers will lament, the archons will lament, crying out on account of their death. The angels will mourn for their human beings, and the demons will weep for their times and seasons. And their people will mourn and cry out on account of their death. Then the age will begin, and they will be disturbed. Their kings will be drunk from the flaming sword and will make war against one another, so that the earth will be drunk from the blood that it has poured out. And the seas will be troubled by that war. Then the sun will darken and the moon will will lose its light. The stars of heaven will disregard their course, and a great thunder will come out of the great power that is above all powers of chaos, the place where the firmament of the woman is situated. When she has created the first work, she will take off her wise, Sophia, flame of afterthought and will put on irrational wrath. Then she will drive out the gods of chaos, aka the archons, whom she had created together with the chief creator, aka Yaldabaoth. She will cast them down to the abyss. They will be wiped out by their own injustice. For they will become like the mountains that blaze out fire, and they will consume one another until they are destroyed by their chief creator, Yaldabaoth. When he destroys them, he will turn against himself and destroy himself until he ceases to be. And then their heavens will fall upon one another, and their powers will burn. Their realms will also be overthrown, and their chief creator's heaven, aka Yaldabaoth, will fall and split in two. Likewise, his stars in their sphere will fall down to the earth, and the earth will not be able to support them. They will fall down to the abyss, and the abyss will be overthrown. This is the final subheading here. The light is saved, and the Gnostics return home. The light will cover the darkness and obliterate it. It will become something like that never existed. And the source of the darkness will be dissolved. The deficiency that was originally created by Sophia in the first place, oopsie. The deficiency will be plucked out at its root and thrown into the darkness. And the light will withdraw up to its root, and the glory of the unconceived will appear, and it will fill all eternal realms when the prophetic utterances and the writings of those who are archons are revealed and are fulfilled by those who are called perfect. Those who are not perfected in the unconceived Father will receive their glories in their realms and in their kingdoms of immortals, but they will not ever enter the kingless realm. For it is necessary that everyone enter the place from which he has come, each one by his deeds, and his gnosis will reveal his nature. And Finn, I honestly, if you ever feel like diving into the Gnostic texts, I would really recommend starting with On the Origin of the World, because it is it's shocking, and I definitely read quite a bit of it, but certainly not all of this chapter. I'm just gonna stop my YouTube video here. Bye, YouTube.